Had to find a way to cut some circles. Here are a couple stools I built with circular tops. Here are some clocks I built that had a radiused top. And I thought I'd build a jig to hold my router for circle cutting. I built this jig and many jigs out of Corian sink cutouts from countertop companies. When they put in a countertop, cut out the sink, they leave a big waste of Corian. It's 3/8 of an inch thick. It machines very well. It won't tear out, break out. You're able to route it, you're able to cut it, you're able to drill clean holes in it. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. It's shiny and smooth, therefore it works very smoothly as a jig. And so I just simply located the holes using my router bottom plate in order to mount a router, and I built this jig. The jig I built has about a 7-inch diameter circle at the top end, about a 4-inch diameter circle at the bottom end. Drilled a hole in that, turned a round knob on my lathe, but you could use any old knob on this. And then you can see it's riddled with holes because I've used it a bunch of times. About a 2-inch hole for where the router goes through. You're also able to use a roundover bit to nicely smooth the edges, so it's a comfortable jig to use in your hand. And really works great. I've used it for lots of things, not just cutting circles, honestly, just for having a stable thing to hold on to, both the router handle in your hand and that knob out there holding the router nice and flat to your surface. The only dimension that matters on this thing when cutting a circle is the dimension from where you drill that pin hole and the edge of your router bit. And then you simply center that hole in the workpiece, put a pin in it, and you've got a circle cutter. Here I used it to cut the tops of those rounded clocks that I had built. And here again I just mounted the pin at the proper diameter. I used a plunge router and slowly lowered myself down, lowered the router down onto that clock body in order to round that top. I got a perfect radius curve using a nice tall smooth router bit to give me a very finished surface, and again an accurate radius even though the jig is so ugly. Here it is when I was cutting the round top for another stool I was going to build. Again, I used the plunge router base. I located that hole so that the edge of my router bit was at about 6 1/4 inches. So I end up with a 12.5-inch circle. And I slowly guide that router around this workpiece, which was 1.5 inches thick, a glue up of hickory, and I slowly run that router around. I would lower the router bit into the work, no more than about 1/4 inch per turn. So I'd make a complete circle with that. Again, it's very stable because you have such a huge flat surface against your workpiece. I didn't even have to hook the workpiece down until I was at the very final circle. Then I used double-sided tape to hold the workpiece down. So I just made several passes with this, lowering the blade each time. And you get the idea of how simply this worked. Here, the circle is done. Pulled off the double-sided tape. You see I got a nice smooth circle cut out of that piece of basically 1.5 inch thick hickory, and makes for a great circle cutter. You can here I'll show you a detail of the cut edge. It's not perfect, but it'll sand very smooth. So here's the clocks I made with it. Here are some other stools I made with it. An ugly but accurate circle cutter made out of Corian for the router. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.